What's going on, everybody? C4 here. Welcome back to our 32-team 7-round mock draft series for the 2020 NFL Draft. Today, we're taking a look at a team that holds 2 first-round picks, picks 13 and 31. That is your Super Bowl runner-up, the San Francisco 49ers. It kind of came out of nowhere last year. There was a Cinderella story, and we see there, I don't want to say with more questions than answers, because it is kind of polarizing what's going on at that quarterback spot, but you have to think that they're going to be, again, very optimistic they can get back to the dance next season, and we're going to try and view their little roster here, what moves they made in free agency in Madden, and then we'll be able to project kind of what their holes are, what needs they need to try to fill through the draft, and we'll get into the mock draft. So looking at their squad right now, obviously there's a lot of debate around Jimmy Garoppolo. Should they have been in on Tom Brady? Like, what's going on here? I'm not, if you follow me on Twitter, you know my feeling. I think Jimmy Garoppolo is vastly overpaid for what kind of production that you get. But, he's not a bad quarterback. He's just not an elite one, even though he's getting paid like an elite one. That's kind of the only concern here. But, maybe another year he'll look a little bit better at running back. I mean, they might have the best running back stable in the NFL. Mostert, Coleman, Breida, and Jerick McKinnon now, who's, I think they picked up his option. I think he's still going to come back next season, even though Mostert, I love Mostert. I still, to this day, I'm upset Philly let him go, man. He was so good. I think he had like a kickoff return for a touchdown. That should make you make the back end of the roster during the Chip Kelly years. And we let him go, and he was unreal for you guys. So I like seeing that, but your running backs are insane. And you throw in Juszczyk. It's probably the best running back room in the NFL. Wide receiver, you got Deebo Samuel, looks like an emerging stud. You got Kendrick Bourne. Goodwin, I'm not sure where he stands on the roster. I know that he's still there, but I'm pretty sure they're trying to trade him or cut him or something like that. Dante Pettis has kind of been a bust so far, and it seems to be in the doghouse more often than not with the Niners. I just know from a fantasy perspective, I kept looking at picking up Pettis. Every time I look like picking him up in fantasy, it's like, oh, Kyle Shanahan doesn't like him. So that's phenomenal. But yeah, definitely could use another wide receiver for sure. You flip to the offensive line, it's a solid offensive line. I think you could use some inside linemen, be it a guard, but guard is few and far between in this year's draft. So you really got to try and hope you can find your value. Day 2, day 3, somewhere in that. But their tackles are fine, even though, again, Joe Staley probably need to get his successor sooner than later. Even if that is Mike McGlinchey, that just makes a spot open on the other tackle. You got George Kittle, who I think is best tight end in football, so no, but depth behind him. Probably could look at bringing in another tight end. Unless that is really Jalen Hurd, I'm not exactly sure. Defensive line is solid, even though they traded DeForest Buckner for a first-round pick, which I thought was kind of surprising, but it made sense from a salary cap standpoint. I think you're going to have, obviously Eric Armstead will move inside to D-tackle. Hopefully Solomon Thomas can finally put it all together. And then you got D Ford, Nick Bosa, Blair. You got Kerry Hyde. I guess it's a really good front four. The linebackers also play at a very high level. Greenlaw, Fred Warner, and the front seven for the Niners, definitely one of the best in the NFC, if not the NFL. The secondary, it was solid last season until it wasn't, especially in the Super Bowl. You still got Sherman, who's good, but he's not an ageless wonder. You have Kwan Williams in the slot. He's not too bad. But as far as depth, as far as the future at this cornerback spot, definitely a top priority for this draft for the Niners. At the safety spot, Tart and Jimmy Ward, not bad at all. I don't think this is a big concern. Maybe you could add some depth later on, but I think the safeties are fine. I think the biggest needs for the Niners here are getting another playmaker on the offense and securing the cornerback spot. Can we fix that in the draft? Let's find out. So now they are on the clock, the 49ers with 2 first-round picks. First up, you got pick 13, which they acquired from the Colts for DeForest Buckner, and then they got pick 31, which they got, unfortunately, for losing the Super Bowl. But at pick 13, thinking of that Super Bowl where the biggest glaring weakness for this squad was their secondary, I am selecting Christian Fulton, cornerback from LSU, 6 feet tall, 200 pounds. If you're looking at a lot of mock drafts, stuff like that, they have Christian Fulton slipping. I think it would be a mistake. I think for a man cover corner, he might be the second best after Jeff Okudah this year. I think his ceiling to develop into an island corner is truly what keeps him in this first round. But then again, last year, Greedy Williams at LSU is a lot of the same positives and negatives that Fulton has. I think Fulton's a little bit better of a technical corner at this point in his career than Greedy Williams was. But these are corners that don't particularly like to tackle and that had him slipped. And then Greedy Williams went to the second round. And then he played a whole lot of snaps for the Browns and looks like a future long-term starter, long-time Denzel Ward there. So I don't think the Niners are going to make the same mistake. You look at a guy right now who's a great athlete who really, you look at the production, 2 interceptions, but he still had 20 pass breakups the last 2 years. So interceptions are down. A lot of scouts kind of knock his ball hawking ability. but he's a shutdown guy. You know, also doesn't get a lot of interceptions? Richard Sherman. And until the Super Bowl, he pretty much turned back the clock and was one of the best corners in the NFL last season. I think if you draft Christian Fulton at pick 13, he should get thrown to the Wolves sooner than later as cornerback 2, next to Richard Sherman sooner than later. If you want a guy that's going to be able, doesn't need a whole lot of development, that can hit the ground running, contribute right away for the 49ers in that secondary, I think Christian Fulton at pick 13 is your guy. Going to pick 31 in the first round, I have the Niners selecting Laviska Shenault Jr., wide receiver from Colorado, 6'2", 220 pounds. Right now, he's still developing as a receiver, but he's an offensive weapon, and not in the same regard that that dude with the pink hair that they drafted. I couldn't believe they drafted him out of Washington. What was his name? Dante Pettis, the second round pick in 2018, who was a returner that was developing a receiver. At least you get in Shenault a guy that is going to be able to contribute right away, immediately. Because you look at the wide receivers right now the Niners have. You have Deebo Samuel, who's going to be the wide receiver probably 1. You have Kendrick Bourne, who could chip in every now and again. You got some decent slot wide receivers between Richie James, Trent Taylor. Obviously, you're not going to give up on Dante Pettis yet. You got Jalen Hurd, who's like a tight end, big slot type guy. It looks like Marquise Goodwin's on the way out. So this is going to be an offense, when you're looking at it, that's lacking speed. And outside of Deebo Samuel, who they utilized a lot last year for his versatility, he's going to need to take on a bigger receiving role. So you need that aspect, though, that element of versatility, of trick play, of you never know what they're going to do in a Kyle Shanahan offense. So you can take some of that pressure off Deebo Samuel and immediately put that on Laviska Shenault while he develops as a true, legitimate wide receiver. I think the 49ers are the best spot for him to go. I see him kind of as like a combination of big Golden Tate, but he also brings speed and athleticism that he's going to be able to beat guys on the outside, whereas someone like Golden Tate can't do that, but predominantly has been working in the slot, and then more so the yard after catch ability. I think the home run deep threat potential is there with Shenault. I think him and Deebo Samuel long-term will give opposing defensive coordinators fits, because you never know how the Kyle Shanahan and these 49ers are going to attack you with these two legit weapons on the field. Going all the way to the 5th round. Jesus, what happened? Where's your 2nd, 3rd, 4th? Where'd all those picks go? But okay, we're in the 5th at 156. Where I'm selecting Benito Jones, defensive tackle from Ole Miss, 6'1", 320 pounds. With the moving on from DeForest Buckner, you don't need to, I see a lot of Niner fans upset about them going D tackle in the first round. Javon Kinlaw seemed like a popular pick. I get that. So, but you still need depth. So I think, you burn your 2 first-round picks on your 2 biggest needs. I think 2 of 3 are your biggest needs. But then now you're getting the 5th round, you can start getting value. And I think that this is a defensive line, interior-wise. Are they going to move Eric Armstead in the D tackle? Are they going to go Eric Armstead, Solomon Thomas at defensive tackle? Is DJ Jones going to get a lot more snap? What's going on there? No one really knows. But if we're talking about value at D tackle, Benito Jones at Ole Miss is exactly that. He's a strong block eater. He's one of the better values at defensive tackle, I think, in this draft. Great run defense. Upside to play a lot of snaps as a rookie on clear rundowns for the 49ers, especially if he dominates training camp like I think he will. He had a really good 2019 for a 320-pound D lineman with 10 TFLs, 5.5 sacks for a pretty bad Ole Miss team. I think he has defensive tackle 4 potential for the Niners, maybe even D tackle 3 if they decide to keep Armstead strictly as a defensive end, but I highly think that's doubtful with moving on from DeForest Buckner. We have a second 5th round pick at 176, where I'm selecting Jake Hansen, interior lineman from Oregon, 6'4", 305 pounds, very strong, put up 33 reps on the bench press. He played a lot of center, but I think he's one of those guys that brings true inside versatility. I think he can play center. I think he has the length and power to play guard. So when you look at the 49ers, they're probably okay at center. They could use some depth behind Weston Richburg, which he could provide. But I think more so you need to add some guards, some guys that might be able to add strength and some competition there. You're looking at the right guard spot. You got Tom Compton is your projected starter. That's not ideal, but someone like Jake Hansen that brings a lot of experience, a very smart lineman, and brings versatility to play really anywhere on the interior of your offensive line. I think that's just a solid value pick at this point. Day 3, it's going to be pretty damn thin when you're looking at interior linemen on the offensive side. So I think, why not take a flyer on Jake Hansen, who's really good at Oregon, can play center, and I think can be developed to play some guard. Going to the 6th round at pick 210, I was selecting James Smith-Williams, defensive end from NC State, 6'4", 265 pounds. Had a standout combine. He came up. He was jacked up. I'm surprised he didn't piss hot, to be honest with you, but he ran a 4.60, 28 reps on the bench press. I think he can come in and be a rotational edge rusher that you're going to be drafting off athletic ability versus production. Only has 8 sacks in his career. Didn't play a whole lot of snaps. I was unable to see if there's any injury history. Like, even on his profile page at NC State didn't say anything. But there's a bunch of seasons I only had like 4 or 5 games played. But you're getting a rotational edge rusher that is very athletic. When you're getting 6th round, 7th round, that is where you start to go, you know what? Maybe even if you didn't dominate college, if you have that athletic profile, maybe our staff, maybe our vision will be able to take you to the next level. You look at the rotational edge rushers here, you're going to assume, like I said, I think they got to move Eric Armstead. You can probably move him and play him at defensive end and defensive tackle, but I'll classify Armstead as a D tackle, right? So you have Nick Bosa and D40 where you're starting defensive ends. Outside of that, you got Ronald Blair, solid rotational guy. You got Kerry Hyder, solid rotational guy. Street, 4th round pick in 2018, meh. But outside of that, man, this is a team that likes to carry 6, 7 defensive ends. I think a guy like James Smith-Williams can beat out some of the bottom depth guys, and with that athletic profile alone, if you can develop him, you can get Robert Saleh to develop this guy, you could get really good value here and get a long-term rotational edge rusher. Then finishing up here, we have 2 7th round picks for the 49ers. First up at 217, I'm selecting Stephen Sullivan, tight end from LSU, 6'5", 245 pounds. Now, I'm not sure how, I didn't watch enough Niner games to see how the hell they utilize Jalen Hurd. I don't know if Jalen Hurd is going to be viewed as a tight end and the depth behind George Kittle, which he could be. But outside of that, just looking at George Kittle, there is no depth. A massive drop-off for the tight ends there. And I think when you look at Stephen Sullivan, he's a converted receiver who had as much needed depth behind George Kittle. He's upside to become the next Ricky Seals-Jones or maybe Gerald Everett, guys that were wide receivers in college that transitioned to tight end. He is lanky as shit. Literally, when he looked like he was running, looked like his arms were almost getting ready to hit the ground. Big arms, alien, twiggy arms, which is tremendous. That is a huge catch radius. He's going to be a guy that can win a lot of jump balls just because he's straight up bigger than everybody else. But you are getting a developmental guy that's still learning the tight end position. But again, pretty much anytime there's a developmental tag to a player, I'd feel fairly comfortable in Kyle Shanahan with the success that he has had, that he will be able to develop and maximize these players. Like I still think the ceiling is very high for a guy like Jalen Hurd, who has that developmental tag. I think if you burn one in the 1st round of Laviska Shenault, you burn another one here in the 7th round of Stephen Sullivan, Shanahan will find a way to develop these guys, and they're going to end up being very, very great value picks for the Niners. And then finishing up with their final pick in the 7th round at 245, I have them adding a little bit more corner depth by selecting Myles Bryant, corner from Washington, 5'8", 185 pounds, a slot corner who adds depth behind Kwan Williams. He had the 2nd best shuttle at the Combine, 402. He brings a pretty solid 2019. He had 60 tackles, 4.5 TFLs, 3 interceptions. And on tape, you can see a very, very smart player, an aggressive player who didn't really test particularly well outside of that shuttle at the Combine. Kind of slow for a smaller corner, but he's a slot guy. That's going to be, expected just to play on the inside. And when you look at the slot depth there, you got Kwan Williams, you got DJ Reed, who at this point probably should be more so used as a kick returner than he is a slot corner, but I think it's just more solid depth to bring in aggressive, high IQ players, which is what John Lynch appears to want to bring into the building. So there you go, guys. That is going to be my 7th-round mock draft here for the San Francisco 49ers. As always, let me know in the comment section below if you agree or disagree with how I decided to try and fix this team. I think we did pretty well. We got, safety, potentially, but Myles Bryant can also play a little bit of free safety, so you can kind of pigeonhole him there a little bit. Linebacker, maybe they could add a linebacking depth, interior lineman. There's just, there's only so much you could do when there's that massive gap between the 1st and 5th round. I think we did okay, but yeah, let me know how you feel about it in the comment section below. That does it for me today, guys. Thank you for watching. As always, your first time stopping by, don't be afraid to hit that subscribe button, smash the like button if you enjoyed. And until next time, it's C4 saying peace out.